video session about investment finger food. In this video, we would be discussing how to increase or sharing some ideas how we can increase our salaries in case of Czech Republic. So in general, if you want to increase or improve something, it's always good to measure it. For example, in my case, what I've decided to do is to create some table, and every single time when there is a year end, I'll take the confirmation of taxable income and I just put it like you can see here. Of course, these numbers are just fabricated, so it's not really my numbers. Nevertheless, for the presentation of idea, it would help us. Then, when you have these numbers, you can easily calculate the difference year to year. And then if you take the inflation rate as published by the Czech Statistical Agency, you can calculate the real growth, so that you know if you really are earning more or if you are actually earning less because the inflation depreciated the growth that you went through. When we are young, which is represented here as a gray area, and we just jump into different company, we can usually quickly grow our salary in between 10 to 20%. On the other hand, as we are getting older, we don't want to just still jump into new companies, but we rather want to work in existing one. And if we want to increase the salary in such case, it usually takes some time to build a reputation inside the company, which is represented here as a blue, and then the red one is still inside the same company, but then because we are able to provide much more value, we are also able usually to grow our salary faster. Of course, this assumes that you are employed or you are working for a business which is able to offer this kind of growth. So it's very important to select the proper one. Then another metrics that we can calculate regarding our salary, if we want to compare it, for example, against shares, is so-called compound average growth rate. So for example, in this case, we are asking question how much this amount of money has to grow over next 6 years so that we end in 1,700,000 Czech crowns. And we would figure out that it's 12%. And then we can of course calculate, for example, last 5 years and last 4 years to see if there is any trend, if it's, for example, getting faster or slower, to get some feedback. Just for comparison, to see some numbers, in my case, I was able to generate these numbers, but of course, nothing grows endlessly, so at one day it will stop, and it would make much more sense to rather invest your money than to invest just into yourself and increase your capabilities and knowledge, even though we shouldn't ever stop learning. But if we compare it to other assets, so for example, US shares are represented by index S&P 500 are growing by 10% per year, world shares around 8% per year, and world gross domestic product, it's usually something in between 3 to 4, better to say it's like 2 to 4% per year in average. Now, if you want to be able to ask for a higher salary or bring more value to people to get a higher salary, we can discuss this table here, which is about learning. So if we know some skill on a level 0, which is here something like beginner, then we have a huge competition. Value that we can provide is low, and ability to get higher income is low because there is a lot of people who can do the same. So the time investment needed is usually 0. Then when we go a little higher into user state or advanced user, then you can see that competition, number of people who can do the same, is decreasing, and then our value is quickly getting higher, and also our ability to ask for a higher salary is quickly growing. Of course, we have to invest some time of deliberate training to get up to that point. And then we can also opt for getting into expert or master level. In my humble opinion, the very good idea is to try to reach these states for several skills so that you can spread the risk, because reaching the master level is really difficult. But advanced user or expert, you can throughout our lives. We can do it for several areas, and then we can be much more valuable because we can also use the interconnection in between these skills to create something even more interesting. So please be aware of it, that to actually be able to provide more value, we have to study and collect skills. It's also very smart to find a mentor who can actually help you to grow faster. Now, what is the basic distribution of salaries inside Czech Republic? I took the data from Czech Statistical Agency for September 2023. So at this point we have nearly 11 million inhabitants in Czech Republic, and roughly 80% of them are economically active. So if we take first 10% of people, then the next 80%, and then we will take last 10%. So let's check what is actually the gross salary distribution. So here, the first 10%, they are earning below 19,000 or approximately 20,000, which is below 870 USD. Then the 80% of people in Czech Republic are earning something between 80-70 USD to nearly 3,000 USD. Then these last 10%, we will divide them into last 6.7 and last 3.3, because after the last 3.3, the Czech Statistical Agency is not providing any data, so it's not possible to calculate further the distribution. So here, last 6.7 or 6.7%, they are earning something between 3,000 USD to approximately 4,400. And then above that, which is last 3.3% of economically active Czech population, they are earning above 100,000 Czech crowns, which is like above 4,400 USD. And if someone is earning more than that, then unfortunately Czech Statistical Agency is not providing any data so that we can evaluate the distribution further. And here you can see how many economically active inhabitants from Czech Republic actually belongs into this group. So now when we know the distribution, it's clear that we have to be able to provide some value to get into, let's say, last 10%. And how can we do it? So there are some general rules. We have to bring value to people by solving their problems. It's so-called entrepreneurial spirit. And we prefer to work in big company where long-term growth is possible, because this company is usually able to earn a lot if it's in the proper area or business, which means it can share with you much more than, for example, some smaller company. Usually we can get around 10 to 20% salary jump by changing employers at a younger age, but as I mentioned, this is not something we would be doing when we are older, because usually when we are older, we prefer the stability, building relationships, and so on. And ideally we choose the field where the average salary is the highest. Then our salary will probably be also higher than overall average. Time is money doesn't apply here, and it's a dangerous idea, because you can work at most 24 hours, and such working regime would sooner or later destroy your health. So much bigger is assume that making money is about providing value, because we can be 10 times as much valuable, even 1000 times as much valuable to others, but we all have just 24 hours. So be careful about these beliefs so that they are not limiting you. And of course, work is not just about earning more, because you can find yourself in a situation that you are earning, let's say, twice as much, but you have 3 times more stress, which again would destroy your health, so it would make no sense. So what is good idea is to calculate some ratios about your salary to be able to compare it. For example, we can calculate how much effort expressed in hours we have to put to earn our salary. So we will get how much we are earning per hour, and this is some relative comparison that we can use, and we can also add there, for example, stress level and so on. So it's not just about earning more, it's about right balance. And what are the best places in Czech Republic as per the gross salaries and data from Czech Statistical Agency? So in first place, it's IT and communication. The average salary is a year around 77,000 Czech crowns. Then financials and insurance, where it's around 67,000. And then the jumper or the grower of the year is production and distribution of electricity, heat, gas and air conditioning, where the average salary from 2023 is around 61,000. And that's it. And what about you? How do you plan to increase your salary in Czech Republic or everywhere else?